Imagine this. You've got 10 brilliant scripts sitting on your desk. You believe in all 10 of them. You've had conversations with the writers. You've done readings. Your literary team is excited. But you can only afford to produce 3. So, what 3 do you pick? Not because the other 7 are weak, but because staging new work is expensive. Audiences are unpredictable, and one financial wobble can throw off a whole season financially. So, I ask you, what do you do? Do you go with the safest bet? The show that might get press coverage? The project your team feels they can sell on the brochure? The best cast? The A-list casting? But here's the deeper question. What happens to the stories we don't have the resources to risk yet? Where did those writers go? How do they build their craft? How do they get a chance? Welcome back to Notes from the Grey Hill. I'm Barry Robertson, the founder of the Grey Hill, and today we are talking about how audio theatre creates a development pathway for new writing. A way to say yes more often, take smarter risks, and give writers opportunities to grow their work before you commit to a full production. So I wanted to start this second episode with that opening analogy of what most theatres go through. And it is literally just that, isn't it? If you're a CEO of a building, you know exactly what that feels like on a regular basis. The truth is, new writing has never been more needed and never been harder to programme. Budgets are tighter, audiences are more cautious, and boards want certainty. And that instinctiveness of this writer has something moment, that magic of taking a punt on unknown talent, can feel impossible to fund. At the same time, something huge is happening elsewhere in our creative sector industry here in the UK. A couple of months ago, it was in the news that the BBC is facing cuts. Radio drama budgets are shrinking, and globally there are only a handful of broadcasters still commissioning audio drama at scale. And yet, writers love audio drama. The Writers Guild told me in a meeting, and it stuck with me ever since. We know loads of writers who want to write for radio, they just never get the chance. So here we are, radio drama is shrinking, demand is growing, and theatre, of all places, is sitting with the perfect opportunity to step in my opinion. Because here's the thing nobody talks about, and for me, it's quite obvious. Theatre is actually the best possible home for audio drama. We have the stages, we have live audiences, we have the ability to direct actors, build atmosphere, and create worlds through sound and performance. And unlike any other sector, we can bring audiences into the recording process itself. By the way, this isn't a new idea. The BBC have done this for decades. War of the Worlds was recorded in front of a live audience. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, entire seasons of dramatic series. Audience came to Broadcasting House in London, watched the performance happen live, and then millions more listened at home on the radio. That's audio theatre. It's just been sitting inside the BBC for 80 years instead of inside your theatre building. But with radio drama budgets shrinking and BBC commissions drying up, theatres are the natural successor to that tradition. You have the artists, the directors, the production expertise, and crucially, you've got audiences who want to be part of the experience. Now, what we are doing here at the Grey Hill is reviving that tradition, but placing it inside theatres with live audiences and giving the theatre its own digital space to release that work. It's audio drama, but grown inside the performing arts sector. And here's where I get really excited. Like, it's so geeky for me. So if you think about it, in television there's a pipeline, a production pipeline. You can write a pilot episode, You can test something in audio, you would put it out there to see what the audience numbers are. You can develop your craft before a network would commit that to millions to turn it into a full series, right? Channel 4 is a prime example of doing that for many, many years. Theatre has never really had that. It's been, in my opinion, full production or a kind of rehearsal, if that makes sense, where we get to test it out to a limited number of people, see if they want to invest in it. Maybe it needs redone again, so we'll test it again, and we'll invite other theatre companies along with the hope of, raising that investment and continuing with the storytelling into a live performance. But for me, audio changes that. Audio for me it gives the theatre a middle step. A creative space where writers can be commissioned, supported, and developed without the large investment that a theatre production needs behind them. It means that theatres can finally say, we believe in you, let's start here, let's make something, and if audiences respond, we can grow it further from this initial step. And it's not about letting audiences dictate your programming, it's about giving yourself better information before you make a big investment decision on what you program, what you tour, and basically how you get your audiences in to see that work. You're still creating, you're still leading, but you're doing it in a sense with evidence, not just that gut instinct. Let me give you a concrete example. So if you listen to episode 1, I was telling you, a few years ago, I was working with the Gaiety Theatre in Ayr. It was at the time where I got some research and development funding to put on our first idea of what audio drama was. And we did a live audio performance as a test, a script in hand reading with an audience in the room that we recorded and released digitally. It worked. People bought it digitally. People came to see the reading live. But here's what really got my attention. When we analysed the sales data, we found people buying from a 50-mile radius away. People who would never have travelled to Ayr for a single reading, but were willing to pay to listen at home. And that told us something important. This wasn't just about accessibility, though it was that. It was about reach. Your catchment area for a live show might be 20 miles. Your catchment area for audio is much more unlimited. And for the writer, it meant their work had a life beyond that single performance. That test bed, that workshop level. It meant that they could build an audience with this idea, and it meant that the theatre had a real proof of concept to take it to a funder or take it to the next level, to plan a live performance. That idea of this is a safe bet and more people want to see this type of work. So let me walk through what this actually looks like step by step, because I think the process is simpler than people imagine. For me, in my head, it's not about not doing live theatre anymore, because we will always do live theatre. It's almost as if your organisation is starting a digital department that is helped and supported with the literary or the audience development side of things, if that makes sense. So first, you would commission the work. Your literary team identifies a writer that they want to support. Maybe it's someone who's done a reading before, or maybe it's a writer whose work you've admired but couldn't afford to stage, or you were like, it doesn't really fit here in this year, but let's try and get it for the following year. You know, that example that always comes up in our industry. So you commission them to write an audio drama script. I would say it's normally between 30 to 60 minutes long. There is no ultimate decision making. You can commission it much longer than that, or shorter than that. It could be episodic. The writer gets paid for that commission. This isn't speculative work. This isn't write it and we'll wait and see. It's the proper commission with proper payment. Then you would rehearse it, so you'd bring in a director and a cast. This is a script in hand, so you're not blocking movement or building sets, but you are directing it. You're building atmosphere, pacing, character. You're treating it like a radio play, which means the acting has to carry everything within the voice. You also bring a sound engineer. They're part of the creative team. From the start, they're working with the director to design the soundscape. What music cues do you need? What sound effects? How do you create atmosphere through the audio drama? What intentions you want the audience to hear? And then rehearsal time is so much shorter than a full production. Instead of like a week, maybe a day, it might actually only be an hour. It could be less than that. From my time of working in audio, the work ethic is much quicker than what it is in theatre. But it's still professional work and everyone gets paid. So after you've rehearsed it, you would bring in an audience. For this example, maybe it's 50 people, maybe it's 200. They watch the performance happen. Actors at music stands, the sound engineer creating effects live or pre-programmed when to go off on cue. And the whole beautiful mechanics of the audio drama is on display. And when you record it, the audience knows this. They're part of the process. They're helping create the atmosphere that makes the recording feel alive. So after that performance is done, we enter post-production. And the sound engineer works with the director to polish the recording. They're cleaning up any technical issues, balancing the sound, adding any additional music or effects that enhance the storytelling. And this is a collaboration. The director has creative input throughout. They're listening to make it to the next level, making decisions about pacing, atmosphere, emotional beats. It's not hand it off to tech and hope for the best. It's still very much a creative partnership. And then it goes into your digital store. Now, once there, your marketing team treats it like any other show. Email your members, post it on social media, include it in your season brochure. This month we'll be releasing a new audio drama by Barry Robertson. Then we just sit back and see what happens. People buy it. Some are people who were in the room that night and want to listen again. Some are people who couldn't make it but heard about it. And some are people miles away from your venue who have never been to one of your theatre performances but love the writer or the genre or just curious about this piece of work. And you're gathering information about how many people bought it in the first week, where were they located, what feedback are they giving, did they want more? And for me, that's what we experience in this digital world. The writer, they got commissioned. The actors, the director, the sound engineer get paid. The work was performed live and recorded professionally, and they're receiving royalties as it sells. The writer still owns the IP, and if the theatre wants to do more, a sequel or a series or a full stage production, there's a clear pathway for that. For your team, importantly, who have maybe never done digital before, they now have a new experience. Your literary team created brilliant work. Your marketing team promoted it like they would any other show. Your audience got to experience something special when they couldn't even get to the theatre venue itself, and you've created an asset that keeps working long after that single performance. That's the process. It's still, in my belief, theatre making. It's just captured in a way that extends the reach and its earning potential. Now that I've said all this, I know some of you are thinking, well, if you're creating digital content, does that mean fewer live productions, fewer jobs for artists and crew? I get that feels scary, but audio doesn't need to replace your season. In my opinion, it extends it. It's the same show that runs for 3 weeks can now generate income for 3 years and more. The same script and hand reading that would have disappeared because you didn't have funding for it or you couldn't fit it into your programme, now can build an audience off the back of that audio recording. And most importantly, more income means more capacity to programme, not less. It means you can take risks on writers you can afford to stage, or to test ideas that you were unsure whether an audience would respond to. It means we're still supporting our creative community and we're supporting our local audiences. It's not about replacing what we do well. It's about capturing value from the work we are making and creating new opportunities that did not exist before. When I've been speaking to lots of people about this, there's always been a concern about, do writers get paid? And yes, this does matter. When you do a live audio theatre recording with an audio present, when I've spoke to agents, they have rightly said, well, that's a performance. Writers should share in the box office the same way they would for any stage show. And they do. A box office split is there at the time. And then when the recording is released digitally and starts generating sales, they receive royalties on those sales too, because that's their ongoing intellectual property generating income. So it's both. It's a mixture of live performance rights and digital rights, fairly compensated. And here's the key. The writer keeps their IP always. What I think is really important about digital going forward is allowing the writer to have more control of the intellectual property that they own. So for me, if a theatre is commissioning a writer for an audio drama and wants to develop it into a further audio drama or a full stage production, we now have a clear fee structure for that. But nothing's been taken automatically. The writer retains all intellectual property rights and can record another version elsewhere if they choose. Of course, that depends on the individual contract between the commissioner and the writer. But in concept and in theory, what I'm saying here is right. The theatre would get the recording, the writer keeps control of the work, and basically that's a fair model. I think also, when I've been contemplating this podcast, Notes from the Grey Hill, I really want to share with you open and honest concerns that are flung my way and which I hear and receive, so that we collectively are not scared or put off by going digital. I've heard a couple of times from theatres, we don't have a digital team, we don't have the technical capacity, this feels like we would need to hire a whole new department, and I want to say you don't. You absolutely don't need to. In most theatres, your team's already doing the work. Your literary team already creates content, your marketing team already knows your audience, your box office team already processes sales. So when conceiving the Grey Hill, it was very much about what did the theatre industry need, how can we help and support them, and that's what we do. We handle the technical infrastructure, the digital store, the hosting, the payment system, you plug into that and you don't need to build it from scratch. This isn't about becoming a tech company. It's about using tools that already exist so you can focus on what you do well, which is making brilliant work. Think about it this way. You did not build your own ticketing system. There's maybe 3 of the most popular ones here in the UK, and you use that platform. It's the same principle as that. The infrastructure exists. You just need a partner who can set it up for you. I wasn't necessarily going to talk in this podcast about independent artists or proofs of concepts, but I thought it was really important to add this in briefly into episode 2, because I wanted to show that not everyone gets the opportunity to work or partner with theatre. And what about the small artists who don't live nearby a theatre or live in a remote community? And it's something that I care deeply about, living here in North Ayrshire and not having access to a regular funded arts organisation. So I wanted to briefly talk about it just now. Not every artist is going to get Arts Council funding. Not every writer is going to win a commission through the traditional routes. The competition and more people submitting applications for public funding is brutal, and this process can take out a lot on artists who aren't used to writing funding applications. For me, audio theatre gives artists a way to build proof of concept independently. Record a pilot, release it, build an audience, and then use that data and audience feedback when you can apply for bigger funding. Now that I've been on this digital journey for a while, instead of saying to a funder, here's my idea, I have been a writer for XYZ years, I've got this great cast, amazing director, and support from this theatre, which are all valid, you can now say, here's the evidence that people want this. Here's how many people have interacted it. And for me, that changes the conversation. It gives artists agency, and it means more work can get made, not less. So, if you're an artistic director, a literary manager, a producer, anyone who commissions or develops new writing, this episode was really for you, to have this conversation about what digital can do. And here's what I want you to take away from this episode. Audio theatre isn't about replacing your season. It's about creating a development pathway that's been missing from theatres for a long time. It's about saying yes more often. It's about testing ideas before you commit huge budgets. It's about giving writers opportunities and the next generation of artists to grow their craft. And building evidence that helps you make smarter programming decisions. Thank you so much for being with me. These podcasts are meant to stimulate conversation, get thought processes out there, and really talk about digital within theatre in a way that we've never done before. And if you've got to this far, I just want to say thank you for listening. In episode 3, I'm going to be talking about something that matters to everyone in this sector, which is fair pay and future-proof contracts. Like, how do you pay writers fairly for the audio work? Like, what do union-aligned contracts look like? And how do you structure royalties in a way that's transparent or builds trust? And if you're ever thought, I want to do this properly, but I don't know what the standards should be, well, episode 3 is there, just for that. I'll leave my details below, where you can follow me personally on LinkedIn, the web link for the Grey Hill, and you can find out more about what we're doing. For me, now that we're in episode 2, I really want to leave you with this kind of thought, which is we do a live programme inviting the community into your theatre space. But now with the advancement of digital, you can now think about what's the digital programming going to be like and how do we help more artists while connecting with further audiences. And I leave you with that thought because I want you to consider what would that look for your unique opportunity within your amazing building, working with a team that you love and admire. Thank you for listening. This is Notes from the Grey Hill, episode 2, and I'm Barry Robertson, your host.